All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show, and we're going to talk some Niner football. That's right. John Lynch spoke at the Combine. We discuss it all right now. Let's go. Hit like and subscribe. It's the Krug Show on a Wednesday. Fire away. All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Happy February the 26th, 11:33 on the West Coast. Hope everybody's having a great day. 11:33 on the West Coast. That's 12:33, 1:33. That's 2:33 back east. It's not my first rodeo. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Also, thanks to our friends at Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula for all your sports cards and collectible needs. Go see my friend Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. He's got one of the best sports cards and collectible businesses in the country, and it's right here in Northern California. So check them out along the Monterey Peninsula. And we are brought to you by our good friends at Aura, and we'll have a word from Aura a little bit later on, and the link is in the description. You can check the link in the description. But thanks to Aura for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, John Lynch spoke today in Indianapolis. The first time Lynch has spoken since the end of the year presser, when him and Kyle Shanahan sat down with the media. And as far as it doesn't look like there's a lot of concrete stuff coming out of this. If there is, we'll definitely share everything and anything and everything that we see online connected to what John had to say today. But we will go into some of the things that he did say. And some of it's really interesting. Some of it is really, really interesting. So let's go right to it. He was asked immediately about negotiations with Brock Purdy. And he said no negotiations with Purdy's agent, who's Kyle Strongen out of Nashville, have begun. And, Lynch stated what the Niners have stated on more than one occasion, which is that they want to keep Brock Purdy in the 49er house long-term. He's the guy they want long-term. And so the negotiations have begun. He wouldn't comment on any specifics in the negotiations other to say that they have begun. And who knows? Who knows what direction this will go? Who knows if they'll be able to get this signed and done? But negotiations have begun. So that was number one. Number two on the list, the Niners have, I guess different special teams experts around the NFL, as well as Robert Saleh, gave the 49ers new special teams coordinator, Brant Boyer, good reviews. So it was asked, how did you arrive on Brant Boyer? Tell us about Brant Boyer. And John's like, hey, man, the special teams experts that we know around the league and Robert Saleh gave Brant Boyer good reviews, and thus Brant Boyer is there. My guess is it's more Robert Saleh and less around the league, but who knows? That's just a guess. Saleh's got, big coattails at this point. The Niners were desperate to have Saleh come back, and I'm sure he said, hey, man, Brant Boyer, pretty good special teams coach. And what are the Niners going to say? No, he's not good enough for us. You suck on special teams. You were almost dead last in almost every special teams category. I mean, you could pick people out of the upper deck at Levi's, and they would have a chance to be better. There's only one team that potentially could be worse. So, I mean, it's like, it's not a high-risk hiring here. But the fact that Saleh liked Brant Boyer, the fact that Boyer lasted through 3 different regimes with the Jets, and the fact that Lynch says they got good reviews on Boyer, all are positives for the 49ers. And he is their new special teams coordinator, Brant Boyer. So they've gotten good reviews on Boyer. Then the perfunctory, the obligatory, I should say, Trent Williams question had to be asked, which is, for the last 2 or 3 years, every time, the Niners brass gets together, it's like, hey, what's the status on Trent? You got this incredibly valuable left tackle. You don't have a replacement for him anywhere around. It means everything to you winning football games. Essentially, any game that he doesn't play, you don't win. I mean, go check it. It's pretty almost across the board. And Lynch said, hey, Trent is playing. He's ready and motivated. So, there you go. Trent's playing. He's ready and motivated. That puts an end to the, man, Trent is not coming back. Trent is playing. He's ready, and he's motivated. Okay, so that was interesting. Then Lynch was also asked about Christian McCaffrey and his status for the upcoming season, and he said McCaffrey's doing great. He's doing really well. I think he could be ready for parts of the OTAs. He didn't say what part. The OTAs start, I believe, in April, and maybe they might even start before that. No, I think it's April. I think they have an OTA practice in April. I think in early April, before the draft. And CMC's doing great, doing really well. I think he could be ready for part of the OTAs. So probably not going to be there in April, but he may be there before training camp. So that's good. I mean, as far as I don't know that changes anything about the way I look at the running back position. You still have to make a decision on J.P. Mason. It's still an epic running back draft. I think you'd be foolish not to add a couple good running backs in this draft just because this is where all the talent is. There are a ton of good running backs in this upcoming draft. So, with the situation with Aiyuk's going to miss a big portion of the season, and what's Deebo's status, which we'll get to here in a second, the Niners may look at receiving tight ends and running backs that would allow them to flex out CMC and play him as a receiver. Outside of looking for a receiver in a not great receiver draft, the Niners could get a Elijah Arroyo from Miami, who's a phenomenal tight end receiver, and go with a lot of 12 personnel. There's a bunch of good receiving tight ends. So you could see them do that as part of their game plan to try to get through this, the first part of the year without Brandon Aiyuk, depending on how long he's going to be back. Now, I don't know that Aiyuk even was broached. I didn't see any of the dialogue connected to Aiyuk. He was asked about Brian Griese and his decision to quit coaching, and John Lynch described it as a family decision by the Grieses. And this is not that surprising to me. I mean, this guy was on TV for a number of years, right? So the TV schedule is very forgiving. I mean, you do whatever you want on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Maybe Thursday, you're flying to the city that you're working in. You're meeting with whatever, college coach, pro coach, discussing the thing for, an hour? Maybe, not even, probably less than an hour. Then you have a couple production meetings, and maybe you got a meeting the day before the game or the morning of the game, something like that. You do your broadcast, you call your game, you get on a bird, you go home. And you're a normal civilian Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday again. And then you have a little something to do on Thursday, and it all goes over again. Compare that to you get to the facility at 5 a.m., you're there until 9 p.m., and you do that 7 days a week, all season, starting in OTAs in May, and you're sitting there in April and May, and then maybe you get a little vacation time in June, but once you come back in early July, a couple weeks before camp, it's a grind. It's a grind. So, I mean, these guys, it always makes me laugh when people who do content creation, start questioning with total certainty these coaches and scouts and front office people that devote tons of time. I mean, some of these content creator people are, they're working a job. They're working a 9 to 5. They're selling whatever in the middle of wherever. And then they come home from work and they're diehard Niner fans and they pop on to YouTube and they do a live stream and a video and, and suddenly they know more than John Lynch. Suddenly they know more than Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan got to work at 5 a.m. He's got tons of experience doing this, and he stayed there till like 9 p.m. And then he did it all again the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Do you see what I'm saying? And then you've got somebody, like me, or, some big mouth know-it-all who looks like me, sitting there going, they should have done this. I mean, if you really think about the absurdity of it. So beyond that, though, we're talking about Griese here. Brian Griese was doing TV. Before that, he was a player. Now he was a quarterback, so quarterbacks work harder than the rest of the team. They have a little bit more involved in the game planning, few more meetings, a little bit more of a time commitment during the week than your rank and file player, but still nothing that approaches coaches. And so Griese's had a couple years to be like, hey man, I'm doing TV, but I got this itch. I got this itch to do something for real. Because TV, you're just like a glorified fan. You're informed, you're giving some opinions, but you have no say, you have no control, you're not competing, you're just there. So a lot of these guys, they've been in the TV booth. I'm so close to it, but I don't really have any stake in the game. And so I need to have a stake in the game. I need to get back into coaching. I need to get back in the front office. Lynch got that bug. Griese got that bug. Well, guess what? You do it for a couple years, and then you realize, man, I love my wife. I miss my kids. When was the last time I took my dog for a walk on the beach? I miss all my downtime. I was making, $2 million, working on TV. And now I'm making, maybe 2.5, but I never see my kids and my dog doesn't recognize me. And I have a totally changed relationship with all the people that I love in my life. So you know what? It's not for everybody, and it wasn't for me. I'll tell you that. And it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. There's a price that's paid to live a football life at the pro level. And Brian Griese probably just said, "Screw this. Why do this?" Now his kids are probably grown up a little bit, and he'll probably get the bug and coach somewhere, do something again. But NFL coaching is thankless and long hours. And unless you want to have nobody pat you on the back, not make that much money, and work 100-hour weeks and see your health and everything else come second, that's the gig. That is the gig. So do you want to do it? Great, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Guys get that bug after they do TV because they're like, oh, we're so close to it. But it's not real competition. I want to be back in the real fire. And then the real fire comes with unhappy owners and unhappy fans and unhappy this. And, somebody on the team made some terrible decision that you have to answer for and all these different things. So Brian Griese, good man, good coach. I was really surprised because he did have a big hand in the Niners drafting Brock Purdy. He had a big hand in the development of Brock Purdy. When I saw that he wasn't coming back, I'm like, there's no way they fired him. No way. No way. This guy, come on. You're going to fire Brian Griese, the guy who was one of the guys who helped you locate Brock Purdy and identify Brock Purdy as a good player? Without Brock Purdy, the regime's done. It's like, hey, yeah, they drafted Trey Lance. It didn't work. They're all fired. But no, Kevin Slowick identified Purdy. Griese was like, yeah, hey, man, I like this Purdy guy. And the Niners drafted him. And it's changed all of their football life trajectories. So I would think that Brian Griese would have been a made man, and probably was, with the Niners. And probably could have called his shots, and this is it. He's calling his shots. It's a family decision by the Grieses. And will he come back and coach again? I think so. I think he probably will. But it's a grind, man. It's a grind. And there's all the people close to you pay the price. So, if you're not married, you have no kids, or you're not married, your kids are grown, hey, it's a perfect profession for you. You can pour yourself into it, live at the facility, You can eat all 3 of your meals at the facility. You can work out at the facility. You can everything that you can do. You never have to leave. They make it so perfectly comfortable that you never have to leave. So you get to work at 5 a.m. You watch a couple hours of film. Then maybe you go lift weights for a couple hours. Then you got practice film to look at. Then you got practice. Then you got, meetings. Then you got more meetings. Then maybe you hit the treadmill. Maybe, they're there. They're there and they're on the job and they're grinding. So it doesn't surprise me that Brian Griese got a 2-year taste of this and was like, hey, TV ain't so bad. Kind of miss my family. Kind of miss my wife. Kind of miss my free time. Life's too short to sit here in a room full of guys who are stressed out, rolling film back and forth because their life depends on it. Brian Griese's life doesn't depend on it. So good for Brian, and hopefully he's making a good decision for himself. According to John Lynch, he was asked today about Deebo Samuel. He said, we at least are allowing him to look for a new NFL home. And then he was asked another question on Deebo's potential market, and he says there's been a lot of interest around the league. He went on to say we're on good terms with Deebo, and we're just going to try to honor his request to be traded. He wants to go to a new spot. We're going to try to honor that request. So I think that's pretty interesting. I mean, there's a lot of interest around the league. We talked about this. We talked about this last week, which is it's easy to look at Deebo and just be like, oh, man, he's persona non grata and his best days are behind him and he's gone, he's done. But then take a look from somebody who's not covering the Niners every day. What do you see? You see a 28-year-old guy who had a big game against Miami late in the year, who looked really good, like maybe one of the Niners' best players in several of their biggest games. That Niners-Eagles game from 2 years ago is one of the most watched games in the NFL in the last decade. He owned that game with his tunnel screen touchdown, and he took it over. So, and then there's teams that are going to look at him and look at his chronological age and say, dude, he's 28. There's all kinds of older guys, 32, 33. This guy's 28. So even though and I know that he's an old 28, and he's probably closer to, NFL body age is probably more like 33, 34 for him because he's run through everybody. He's taken a ton of hits. But if you're not watching it every day, you're like, hey, man, he's 28. And then if you think you know a little bit about football, you're like, hey, man, the 49ers offensive line is not very good. Not a very good offensive line. Oh, by the way, they lost CMC. So, I mean, if you want to believe that Deebo can still do it, you can delude yourself in several different ways. Man, he's only 28. Man, the Niner offensive line is not that good. Man, it all just came down on his head once CMC was hurt. Man, it's like you can blame anything you want. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there. The other thing about Deebo is he's a true one of one. There's nobody like him. I mean, it's like saying you wanted a car in the 80s that was as wide as a Dodge Pacer. Well, there was no car as wide as a Dodge Pacer. It was like the widest car ever created. Okay, well, if you had to have a wide car, you had to get that Pacer, most likely. And it's kind of the same thing. I mean, he's a wide back. There are not a lot of them. There's not a lot of guys who do exactly what Deebo does. So if you want him, the Niners, if the Niners are forced to release this player, that's fine. He's out there. You don't have to trade for him, but you got to offer him something that's going to beat everybody else out, right? So who knows? To me, it seems like it makes no sense for the 49ers to trade him and not release him with a post-June 1st designation. My guess is still that they probably just release him, on the 21st of March, a day before that roster bonus is coming due. And they probably wind up getting nothing, but you never know. There might be a team out there that's like, hey, you know what? We want to jump the line. We'll give you a couple day 3 picks. Here's a 5 and a 6. Here's a 4 and a 6. We want to jump the line. We want this player. There's stars on our team that are demanding us to go add this player. And you never know. You just never know what the pressure points are in other organizations and what they're looking at and what they're thinking. To me, I can't imagine that Deebo is going to be traded because it just seems like it's more advantageous for the 49ers to release him. But John Lynch, made it perfectly clear 6 months ago or whatever in December when he said, hey, look, or I guess it wasn't 6 months ago, a couple months ago, when he said, hey, we're not in the business of giving away good players. Well, he was asked about Deebo today, and he could have said, hey, you know what? We're gonna part ways, and who knows? He could have said anything. Instead, he doubled down on there's a lot of interest around the league in Deebo. Is that a lie, or is that true? Is that posturing for a better trade, or is there legitimate, as John says, a lot of interest around the NFL? Interestingly enough, there was a report yesterday that came out that said that DeMeco Ryans, the Texans head coach, had interest in Deebo. And that was just on an NFL rumors page. But DeMeco was in Indy today, and immediately somebody ran right up to him and said, hey, are you interested in Deebo? And he's like, hey, we're always interested in good players, and he's a good player. So we'll see. I don't know what the Niners are going to get back in this situation for Deebo. I'd love to take Azeez Al-Shaair. Send Azeez over and you can have him. That's just too good to be true. That won't happen. But that would be great. That's what I would want from you. What do you want for Houston for Deebo Samuel? How about Deebo and a day 3 pick and give us back Azeez? Okay, we'll take Azeez back, the most violent man in football who is hated by everybody at the end of the year. So that would be my ask. I want Deebo back. Give me Deebo back. And then one of the things that Lynch said today that I think should be almost like stamped on every 49er fan's head for the rest of this offseason is a very simple line. We need to get younger. That's it. We need to get younger. We need to get younger. Period. End of story. That's it. They need to get younger. They need to get younger on the offensive line, on the defensive line, at linebacker. This is their year. It's a deep draft. You got an 11th pick overall. Trade back a few spots. Start your drafting in the teens or in the 20s. Get 2 or 3 or 4 extra picks and start building up your team. Draft 5 defensive linemen, draft 3 offensive linemen, draft 2 linebackers, draft a tight end, draft a free safety, draft a corner, draft a quarterback, draft a running back. I mean, build up your team. Build up your team. Right now you're very, very, you're old. Your best players are all old. You don't have great young players. There's no question. It's time to build this thing up a little bit. It's time to rebuild this roster. The 49ers roster is not one of the best rosters in pro football. All right, let's share the screen because we'll play a couple of these cuts. Here's Lynch talking about Purdy, and this is courtesy of Raj, RSF 49ers. Here's John Lynch talking Purdy in Indy.
We have started negotiations. We're talking. I won't go into negotiations like always is our stance. Want Brock to be our quarterback as long as we're here and beyond, and we'll leave it at that. I think the final thing, there's no guarantees that we get something done, but my experience has been when both sides are motivated, there's ample opportunity to do so, and we've been able to do that. So,
John, even though
so he added there that both sides are motivated. Okay. That's good to hear. That means that, that looks like they can get on the same page. So it's going to be interesting. This offseason is going to be interesting. It looks like the Deebo deal's or looks like the Purdy deal's going to get done. As far as Deebo's concerned, they're trying to move him, and they're making it sound like there's some interest. Also today, if you said to me, how would I handle this offseason? What would I do? They have the 11th pick. Okay. Mel Kiper's got Walter Nolan, who's a terrific two-way defensive tackle. I say two-way. He's great against the run. He's great against the pass. Mayoko reported today that the Niners met with Walter Nolan, but that Walter Nolan grew up a Niner fan, and he was fans of guys like Patrick Willis. Get this guy. I mean, this guy's really good. Some people think he's going to go. Kiper's got him going 32nd. I don't think he's going 32nd, but I think he's probably going in the late teens. I would say 17 to 24 is where I think Walter Nolan's going to go. So you trade from 11 down to 14. You trade from 14 down to 17, something like that, and you sit there at 17 or 18, and you draft Walter Nolan. And for moving from 11 to 17, you maybe get an extra third-round pick, maybe a couple extra third-round picks, maybe two extra third-round picks and two extra day 3 picks. Add 3 or 4 picks to your arsenal. You're not going to hit on every guy. You're just not. You're going to miss. Okay? It's just the way it works. It's people picking people. There's always going to be a failure rate. So, what do the Niners need? Let's go through it again. Number 2 quarterback. They need another running back. I think they need a new fullback. They need a tight end. They need a speed receiver. They need a couple offensive linemen. That's 7. They need a kicker. That's 8. They need at least 4 defensive linemen. So what's that? That's 12. You need a couple linebackers, in my opinion. That's 14. You need a free safety. That's 15. You need a corner. That's 16. You need 16 new players coming out of this offseason. They don't all have to be in the draft. I mean, you might be able to sign somebody. And there's a lot of talk today. The Niners are real interested in the free agent safety group. And Eric Reed's brother, Justin Reed, for Kansas City, has been named. Javon Holland has been named. Maybe that's their big splash, is they'll go after a top-tier free agent safety. But it sounds like the Niners are poking around the safety. I don't think it's the safety free agents. I don't think it's a great safety draft, to be completely honest. So that, to me, would totally jive with a good offseason plan. See if you can get a Javon Holland. See if you can get a Justin Reed. See if you can fill that safety need in the free agent world, and then that's one less player you need to draft. You're sitting at 11. If you want to take Malachi Starks and put him at free safety, that could be a plug-and-play great decision. He might be a phenomenal free safety for the next decade. But I do love Walter Nolan, and I saw, Daniel Jeremiah, who I respect quite a bit, said, hey, if it was him, this was like last week, he's like, if it was me, if I were the 49ers, I'd trade back from 11 a few spots and take Walter Nolan. And I agree. And if you didn't, I would still trade back for a few spots, and if I didn't get Walter Nolan, I'd take somebody else. I'd take Kenneth Grant, take one of these other big-time defensive linemen. But Walter Nolan, I think, is he did it in the SEC. He was second in tackles for loss in the SEC. He's really good against the run, but he's really athletic and can rush the passer. 5-star guy coming out of high school. Went to Texas A&M, looked good for the Aggies, transferred to go play for Lane, played opposite J.J. Pegues and Jared Ivey on a really good Ole Miss defensive line. Ole Miss's defensive line, I think, led the nation in pressures and sacks, and they were everywhere. I mean, Ole Miss was stacked, absolutely stacked. One of the most loaded teams in college football. And Walter Nolan is a big-time player. And, if he indeed met with the Niners today, that's the route I would go. Get Walter Nolan, trade back a few spots, get extra picks, and start your draft that way. I think that's probably the best plan. Now, that would be my plan. It's not everybody's plan. That would be my plan. All right, let's read some of the chats. Hit like and subscribe. If you hit like, that just helps the algorithm. More people find the live stream. If you hit subscribe and click that notification bell, every time we go live, you'll get the da-da-ding. Krug's going live, and you don't have to miss a minute of the action. And, of course, we're brought to you by our friends at Aura. And thanks to Aura for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Let's see here. Let's check out some of the chats in the chat and see what people have to say. By the way, there's a lot of talk out of Indy that the Rams are serious about trading Stafford, and the New York Giants have made Stafford like their number one obsession. Is they want Stafford. The Giants want Stafford. I think Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, no, they're done. They are done at the end of the year. Some of the combine notes today: Green Bay shopping Jair Alexander in trade talks. The New York Giants have made trading for Matthew Stafford their top priority. My good friend Tony Pauline says the Niners are one of 3 teams that have serious interest in free agent quarterback Joe Flacco. There's a lot of talk coming out of Cincinnati that the Bengals, who have to pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson, that they're going to trade Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end, if they can't meet his asking price. So that would be, he would be a nice guy to go after because the motor is just off the charts for Trey Hendrickson. He plays so damn hard. He would be monster opposite Nick Bosa. The Senior Bowl director, Jim Nagy, left the Senior Bowl to be the new general manager of the Oklahoma football program. This is kind of a new deal where there's lots of good personnel people that are now being plucked away by these individual colleges to be the general manager of their football program. It's a great job. I'm sure it's a great job. And for a guy like Nagy, he's just kind of doing what he already does. But that's interesting. The Steelers, according to reports, have a serious interest in a reunion with Javon Hargrave, the Niner, who's still a Niner for the moment, but is likely to be released here any minute. And then the Steelers would like to bring him back, it seems like, on a reasonable deal. And then the Titans have granted edge rusher Harold Landry a right to seek out a trade. So also John Lynch, one other thing on John Lynch. John Lynch says contract talks have been going on with Dre Greenlaw and that the hope is that a deal can be struck before free agency. Nick Wagner says Greenlaw may indeed test the market first. But that's interesting. So if the Niners are going to get a deal done with Dre, it might be before March 12th when free agency officially begins. So another story to watch there, and we'll keep looking for these stories around Twitter on exactly, who's where and who's going where and that kind of thing. But that's interesting. John Lynch, according to Raj, RSF 49ers, he's tweeted out, John Lynch says contract talks have been ongoing with Dre Greenlaw, and the hope is that a deal can be struck before free agency. However, Greenlaw may test the market first, according to Nick Wagner. And what do we got going here? John confirmed that I can't even read that. Hold on a second. I'll make it bigger. There we go. John Lynch confirmed the team has had extension talks with George Kittle's reps, and the team wants Kittle to retire as a Niner. This is also per Nick Wagner. That's something we all want to see become a reality. So there you have it. I mean, we have a lot of the notes of the day pretty much wrapped up right there. So once again, negotiations have begun with Brock Purdy's agent, and it sounds like they're progressing at a reasonable rate. Robert Saleh and others gave Brant Boyer a good review, which is why they hired Brant Boyer. Trent Williams is back. CMC will be back for part of the OTAs. Brian Griese left because of a family decision. Deebo, John says we're allowing him to look for a new NFL team because that's his request. We want to grant his request. We want to honor his request. And then John said there's a lot of interest around the league. John said we need to get younger. He also says the trade talks, or I should say contract extension talks with Dre Greenlaw are ongoing, and they hope to get a deal done with George Kittle. So you are fully updated. Let's go to the what do we got here? We got another one here. The Patriots have given Davon Godchaux permission to seek a trade. There has been contact with interested teams. The veteran's likely on the move given the team's defensive scheme shift. I take Davon Godchalk or Godshow in a deal for Deebo. Why not? Pats have a lot of room. They need a receiver badly. This guy's awesome against the run. This guy's a beast against the run. Go look at his run numbers. They're really, really good. I'd do that. I absolutely would do that. If that was an option, I would do that. All right, let's take a look at some of these chats. And we won't just go to the supers. We'll go to a little bit of each. Okay. Henry Harwood says everyone is banging on Kyle Shanahan not being there. I don't know if everyone's banging on. Objectively, what is Kyle Shanahan being there is a bigger detriment to the Niners? What if Kyle Shanahan being there is a bigger detriment to the Niners? Possibly. Bad liar, unintent giving away draft free agent info, or bad player interview skills. I mean, you got to know yourself. Are you a major part of the personnel equation? Are you not? If you are, you probably need to have some answers. If you're not, then what difference does it make? I think Kyle Shanahan at this point, his strengths are proven, his weaknesses are proven. I think we kind of know what his strengths are. We kind of know what his weaknesses are. Kyle Shanahan is really, really good offensive coach whose offense produces points. And he can get a lot of different players to play well for him. Okay. What are his downsides? He's kind of stubborn, right? He doesn't like to change a lot. And I don't think he's got an awesome personnel evaluation eye. I think he liked C.J. Beathard. I think he liked Joe Williams. I think he liked Jalen Hurd. I think he liked Dante Pettis. I think he liked Trey Sermon. These were all offensive players that the 49ers during this regime, traded up for in the draft. So, maybe it's best for Kyle just to sit it out. I mean, Mike Tomlin doesn't draft players. Kevin Colbert did. Now Omar Khan does in Pittsburgh. Not every head coach is sitting there just because you have the final say, because the buck stops with you because you're the highest paid guy, doesn't mean that you know more than your road scouts, or you know more than your regional scouts, or you know more than your scouting director. My guess is that Kyle probably has some strong opinions on some guys. You want to listen to them, sure. You want to discuss it, but defer to your scouts. That's what they're good at. That's what they devote their entire life to. That's why they're staying at a hotel, 3 blocks away from Baton Rouge and, Tiger Stadium, because they are going to be there. While you're getting ready to face the Browns, they're getting ready to scout players in LSU, South Carolina. So you got to trust your guys. There's a lot of man hours that go into this thing. You got to trust your guys. You got to get good scouts, and then you got to listen to them. So I don't really have any problem with that. And I don't think lots of people are banging on Kyle. I know Grant's asked a lot of questions this week of people in Mobile. What do you get out of the combine? But just because Coach A gets something out of the combine doesn't mean that Coach B gets the same thing out of the combine. And every situation's a little different. Sometimes they want the coach to have a major opinion. Other times it's like, hey, just coach the team. That's what you're good at. We'll get you the players. You tell us what you like in players, and then back away and let us do our job. We got this one from 2 babes in a row. He says, Larry, let me master your audio. Okay. Is the audio not good today? Vernon says, Larry, what did we learn from Lynch? That's kind of what we've been going over here. Label Up. He's like, what's up, Krug? What's up, chat? What's up, Label Up? There we go. We got this guy, Maleko Mea Kalepa, saying watching on the West Coast at 2:30. Back east on the West Coast of Florida. There you go. West Coast of Florida. West Coast, East Coast. He's on the West Coast of Florida in the Eastern time zone. Just a random question. Larry, I can't taste anything. Do you know how to fix that? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Kenny Powers, let's trade Deebo and Aiyuk in a package, Larry. You know what? I got no problem. If the Niners want to move off of these receivers, I got no problem with it. I really don't. It's okay with me if they start new. It really is. I like Luther Burden quite a bit. I really do. I think Luther Burden's a difference maker, man. Major difference maker. If I could get Luther Burden tomorrow by trading Aiyuk and Deebo, I would. I would. I think Luther Burden is really, really good. Arturo. Hey, Larry, Niners trading Aiyuk. Is that a question? Or is that just a statement? Red Sox 04. They should name a section of the upper deck after Larry. Yes. This is the big mouth know-it-all section. Everybody here has a gigantic mouth and thinks they know everything. Thank you, Larry. They could just have me waving to the Jumbotron. Hey, everybody. It's the big mouth know-it-all section. We like to call it the Krug section. Gregory Callow. Krug, so you agree the way to build a team is from the inside out? If it truly does take a year for the O-line to acclimate, then we should start building the offensive line in this draft. Well, I would say, maybe this is a cop-out. I don't believe in any of those axioms. Oh, you got to start here. Oh, you got to start there. I've had lots of extensive conversations with some really, really good personnel people, guys who have done it for years and I think are awesome at it. I mean, some of the best personnel people I've ever worked with, I think, are some of the real, real good personnel people. And we got into these discussions, all those hours I spent working in Canada and all those hours I spent working for the Cardinals, we got into a lot of these discussions. How do you do it? Okay, you start with the quarterback. I mean, this is the common belief is this. You start with the quarterback, and then you immediately go to supporting that quarterback. Get him a bodyguard. Get him a left tackle. Get him a right tackle. Build up that offensive line. Get him some weapons. Get him a Jamar Chase. Get him a Justin Jefferson. Get him a weapon. Get him a back that he can throw the ball out of the backfield to, a little safety valve. Look how much better Jared Goff has looked the last 2 years with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs as opposed to how he looked before those guys showed up. So, I mean, I have beliefs. I personally believe if you want to change a team fast, you change the guys who touch the football. That's going to change the team. You don't like the Niners anymore? Then get rid of, Purdy and CMC and Kittle and Aiyuk and Deebo and Juice and go get new guys who touch the ball. That will change your team the fastest. That's if you wanted to get rid of all your guys. If you want to change a team fast, change the guys who touch the football. Okay. Then I really believe that you have to build up your offensive line. I mean, your offensive line, and it has to be built up. Doesn't have to be high. It doesn't have to be all blue chip guys, but it has to make sense. And you have to look for traits that you think are endearing, long-term, beneficial traits. For example, I like offensive linemen that come from small schools in cold weather. Why? Because you're going to decide this thing. You're going to have to go to Green Bay. You're going to have to beat Philly in Philly. You're going to have to beat the Commanders in Washington. You're going to have to beat, Kansas City in Kansas City. You're going to have to beat these teams, most likely, in cold weather. So don't get me a bunch of offensive line from Florida A&M. I want some guys in the Big Ten. I want some guys, give me Nick Allegretti, who played at Illinois. I want some guys who can play in cold weather. I also want guys I want guys with wrestling backgrounds, and I want guys who like to fight. It's a fight. If you don't want to fight, you can't play for me. It's a fight. That's what it is on the offensive line. Give me a bunch of cold weather, badass, tough guys who love to fight and have a wrestling background. That means they take it personally. They're accountable. That's what I'm looking for. And build out the toughest offensive line that you possibly can. And don't worry about, small school, this or that. I mean, that's immaterial. One of my favorite linemen in this draft is Marcus Ware. He plays for Montana State. But you know what? He was perfect in the one-on-ones. He looked great. Played right tackle at Montana State. Some people think he's a guard. He's listed by most people as a guard. He's 6'4". He's 310 pounds or whatever. I think he's a center. I draft him on day 3 and tell Jake Brendel to beat it. We're moving on. So I mean, it's just, but that's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for tough guys who like to fight, who have a wrestling background, and preferably play in cold weather climates. And they're just the kinds of guys that just, they see their quarterback getting hit and they don't care if they're going to get ejected from the game. It's on. Some defensive end takes a shot at Brock Purdy. I want all 5 of my linemen on that guy, fighting that guy, and I don't care about the repercussions. That's the mindset I want from my offensive line. Not my quarterback doesn't even get helped up. I've seen some teams where the quarterback gets knocked down and their linemen they walk by him. They don't even help him up. Heck, when Trey Lance was here, I saw Mike McGlinchey walk by him one time and not help him up. It's like, Mike, what are you doing? That's your quarterback. That's your quarterback. He just got knocked on his can. Help him up. That was inexcusable. And I don't like any of that. I want old school throwback tough guys on the offensive line. Bottom line. That's how I'm building the thing up. And then give me some defensive linemen. And preferably a great corner. RS at 49ers, Raj just put this out. John Lynch has indicated there is still no timetable for an exact return for Brandon Aiyuk, who is said to be recovering from injury. Yeah, I mean, I would say realistically, I've been saying it for about a month now. I'd say November 1st is realistic. That's November 1st to me is the realistic time for him to come back. After that, if he comes back before that, it's gravy. Google is Skynet says, need me some Membu and Mukuba. Membu, of course, is the offensive tackle for Missouri, who I just love. I mean, he's so fun to watch. I got no problem with the Niners drafting Membu at 11. That would be great. Mukuba, I think, is in a lot of ways the perfect safety for the Niners, too, because they're looking for somebody who can cover and somebody who can hit, and that guy can do both. We have this one on John Lynch as well. A lot of this stuff is coming out. Now, this didn't come out right at the presser. I didn't hear the presser, per se. We're only getting chunks of info coming out of it. John Lynch on Jake Moody. The team still has a lot of belief in Jake Moody. They feel his injury was a big part of his struggles, and they've had very honest discussions with him. Okay. Man, we're just going to die on this hill, aren't we? You make one iffy pick in the 3rd round, and we're just going to die on the hill. We're just going to cost ourselves season after season after season. They better bring in some competition. Sounds like it's more Jake Moody. So, I mean, wow. You invested. This is why you don't invest a 3rd-round pick in a kicker, because then that adds more pressure to the situation, and then your front office is less willing to chalk it up as a mistake because they invested a 3rd-round pick. And if you make a 3rd-round investment in a kicker and it doesn't work out, that there could be people that would call you on the carpet. So let's keep going down this road of defending our 3rd-round kicker. How many games is it going to cost us? How many games? You don't tell me you're going into this draft and are going to draft another kicker. I will lose it. I will lose it if they draft another kicker. No more kickers drafted. Sign guys. Vinatieri, free agent. Butker, like 7th-round pick. Do not invest any meaningful draft capital in a kicker ever again. Hold tryouts from April through the first day of training camp. Hold a damn tryout every single day. Invite every soccer player in the world to try out. Invite everybody you can think of. And find your kicker between April and camp. Gosh. I mean, would it really kill you to spend $5 million on Jason Sanders or a veteran kicker? I mean, that's the route I would go. Because right now, I'm like everybody else. If it's week 1, Niners playing whoever, they're down 2, they're inside the other team's 30-yard line. We're looking at a 45-yard field goal. And, here comes Jake. You feeling good? I'm not. I'm not. And that's a problem. That is a problem. All right, let's hit a couple more of these here. Invader 49er. Actually, the combine is a tool. Thank you. It's very accurate. And then he says the combine is a tool that you can use to fine-tune your draft. There you go. Mitchell and Ness. Why no morning show today, Larry? Thought you were driving to Arizona. No, Damon and I have been streaming Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and it's just too much. It's too many days. So we're in the off season. We're gonna go Monday and Friday. So Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. I'll stream with Damon. Wednesdays, we're gonna do something different. It's just too much. I don't stream with anybody more than once a week, except for Damon, who I'm streaming with twice a week. That's fine. Twice a week's fine. 3 times a week, too much. Christopher Byers. The Kruger section at the stadium will cost you 2 dozen eggs. 2 dozen eggs? Where am I going to get that kind of loot? Jim Molay. Shout out Sacramento Surge. That's right. They were in the World League, but then there was also the Sacramento Gold Miners, who were in the Canadian Football League. Thank you, Jimmy. Let's see. We got a few other ones here. We got this one from Trip Aces. Draft Makuba. Hashtag draft Mason Taylor. I love this time of year. Niner fans start to look at some of the players, and they have strong feelings, and they're like, draft this guy. Believe me, there's a lot of people that are pushed out of shape when they get those kinds of comments. I'm not. You can bring them all day. You got somebody you're passionate about. You want to say hashtag draft this guy. Go for it. More the merrier. I welcome all those commentaries. We got this one from Trip Aces. Makuba and Mustafa, hard hitting DB and safety. I would like to see one more thumper. To go, and I'd be fine with, a veteran either, but, Mustafa's a big time hitter. If they could find one more big time hitter to go with him, I think that would really be nice. That would really help them quite a bit. Let's see. Mitchell and Ness. I want to go all in building the defense. Since we can't get rid of Kyle and Johnson as a Bear, we have to have top 5 defense to prop up Kyle's broken offense. It's proven Kyle's O can never carry the team. Well, you can say that. I mean, here's the thing, Mitchell and Ness. The Niners this year, with no CMC, with Aiyuk doing nothing, with Trent missing tons of time, with Kittle missing time, with everybody getting hurt, basically, they still had a top 6 offense or something like that as far as yards. So, I mean, to me, we can bang on Kyle because the offense wasn't great, but the defense was horrible. The special teams was a joke. So, I don't know. I mean, the 49ers just have to be better, period, across the board. But they got to be better in the red zone on both sides of the ball because they were good rated as far as yards, offense, defense. They just weren't good rated as far as points, and it's all about points. You got to if I can choose one or the other, I would rather be number 1 in points allowed than number 1 in yards allowed. We got this one. T-Dub, couple of Austin P defenders going to get drafted. I think 2 legit NFL guys. So it's funny you should say that because Bo Spearman and Jesse Johnson are 2 guys that I've been looking at this morning. I haven't finished looking at Jesse Johnson, but as far as Bo Spearman is a stacked backer who plays for Austin P, who looked really good. I put out a video earlier today of him breaking down in space, keeping his shoulders squared to the line of scrimmage, spilling the play out, and then making the tackle. He looks legit, and he had over 100 tackles last year. So I really like. I mean, I hadn't even heard of Bo Spearman until today. But Austin P, go look at his film. Bo Spearman, definitely somebody to watch. inside linebacker who can make a lot of plays. Bo Spearman. We got this one. Trip Aces says draft Membu. We got this one from Kenny Powers. Anyone from SI? Larry in this year's draft? I don't think so. No Wildcats. If St. Ignatius were in South Florida, maybe. Krug, look up Armand Membu. Oh, I have. I've spent a lot of time watching him. I'll say the most impressive part about Membu, he never lunges. I mean, offensive linemen, you can watch good offensive linemen, and they can lose balance 5 times in a game. I watched this guy for an hour and a half. Some highlights. One was a first half of an entire game. He doesn't lose balance. The guy's balance is amazing. He's got super long arms, and his foot balance is absolutely tremendous. Really, really impressive. Really like Membu. A lot. He's like one of my favorites. Leon Sandcastle. Any thoughts on Montana State's quarterback, Tommy Mellett? You know what? I've had a bunch of people ask me about Tommy Mellett. I haven't seen him yet. I'll spend some time. Feldman called him the smartest quarterback he's ever met. He runs a 4.4. Wow. I will say this. I did do a kind of a deep dive on a lot of the quarterbacks, and I took a look at a bunch of them. Because to me, you got to start with the quarterbacks. You got to figure out who can play, who can't play. I love Cam Ward. Shador is wild in that he needs all kinds of coaching. But I can see the talent. I can definitely see the talent of Shador. Quinn Ewers, because Ward and Sanders are most likely not going to throw at the combine. Quinn Ewers is going to throw at the combine. And there's a lot of talk that Dallas may be interested in a quarterback this year. And as that kid being a Texas kid, I could picture them having interest in Quinn Ewers, maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. But I looked at all the quarterbacks, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard, Curtis Rourke, Tyler Shugg, Dylan Gabriel, Riley Leonard. And I'll tell you, looking at all these guys, I'll give you 3 quarterbacks that I really like. I really, really like Kyle McCord, the Syracuse quarterback. 6'3", 225 pounds, really good arm. Like what I saw from him. He can really shoot it in there. I kind of like Brady Cook. Now, he doesn't have a big arm, but he processes. He's fast. He's going to run probably a sub-4 640. He came back. I mean, I saw this kid get taken out on a stretcher in a game, and he came back in the game and won the game. I mean, Brady Cook is a gamer. He's a gamer. Not a huge arm, but as far as a developmental backup quarterback, I really kind of like Brady Cook. And I'll tell you, the other kid that you got to take a look at is the kid from Canada, Taylor Elgersma from Laurier. This guy completed 73% of his passes. He's got a gun, and he's 6'6", 215. Really underrated athlete. You don't see a lot of kids from Laurier invited to the Senior Bowl, but he was. And he's got a big arm, and he's pretty athletic. And as I said, he completed 73%, and it's a big step up in competition. But, man, I really like him. I kind of like Peyton Thorne. I kind of like Seth Hennigan. Kind of like Riley Leonard. But I don't think it's an awesome quarterback draft. If I had to take a quarterback, I believe in Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's going to be great. And if I had to take a quarterback in round 2, I'd take Quinn Ewers. He's from South Lake. He had a 5-star prospect. I think he's a better player than we even saw at Texas. The other guys, Milroe's got small hands, look terrible at the Senior Bowl. Will Howard's a big kid, but I don't love him. Shugg is got a huge arm, but not a lot of movement skills. Dylan Gabriel, a lot of experience, but he's small. He's like 5'9", 5'10". So I love Cam. If I had to go 2nd round, I'd go Ewers. If I was going day 3, give me Kyle McCord, Taylor Elgersma, Brady Cook. And as I said, a little interest in Seth Hennigan, who's kind of clutch from Memphis, and a little interest in Peyton Thorne, who's pretty athletic. And he's got a good football lineage family. That's how I kind of see the quarterbacks this year in the draft. It's not a stellar group, but I still think there's some players there for sure. All right, let's hit a couple more of these. Let's see. Google is Skynet. Krug knows about Membu. Oh, damn right I do. What else? Let's see. We got this one. T-Dub. Krug, you watch any Jalen Royals, wide receiver, Utah State? He fits body and prototype that Kyle likes. Very balanced, refined route runner. Yeah, I did watch him because people were comparing him to Deebo. I don't see Deebo. I mean, I think he's a decent player. I'd like to see what he runs. I think his 40 time's not going to be as fast as people think. I didn't see tons of separation. Bigger bodied guy for sure, but I didn't see the separation there. I know lots of people have been talking him up, and so I wanted to like him. I flipped on the film, I watched. I didn't see what everybody else saw. So I don't know what to say about that. TA says Deebo and BA for a second rounder. I'd do that in a heartbeat. Wi-Fi says I heard Andy Lee's available. Yeah, they have Wishnowski. Hopefully his back will be better. Andy Lee's not a kicker; he's a punter. Invader 49er. I don't buy the dying on Moody Hill when they moved off of Lance as quick as they did. Yeah, I mean, what? I don't get it. Chris Knight. Kyle is drafting a kicker, Larry. Deal with it. And with the 49ers pick in the second round, they take Andres Borregales, kicker from Miami. No. Franco says Robbie Gould was undrafted as well. Oh, yeah, I mean, believe me, a lot of the best kickers were never drafted. You don't need to draft a kicker to have a kicker. Find one. Joseph Ernberg, any good kickers that could fall at 11? No. Could you imagine? I mean, I don't even know what I would do. I would say all kinds of terrible things. Larry, Jedi says, Larry, can we get a live draft show? I'll send a super chat for the draft. Yeah, absolutely. We can do a live draft show. We'll do. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do for the draft. I know on Thursday, the first round of the draft, I'm going to be part of the KMBR coverage at the Niner facility, which is going to be awesome, right? I'm so excited about that. Anybody who knows me knows I literally would do it for free. Don't tell KMBR that. Let's keep that secret from KMBR. But I would literally do the draft coverage for free. That's how much I love it. So I was talking to Mike Kohler, and I will definitely be part of their draft coverage right there at the Niner facility. I'll get a chance on draft night to look Kyle and John in the eye and ask them about who they picked and their thoughts. And I'm so looking forward to that. I would imagine Greg Papa, maybe Adam Copeland, maybe John Dickinson. I'm not sure who else will be in the mix there, but KMBR does a great Thursday night first round recap of the draft. And so I'll be part of that on Thursday night. So, and then I'll go live after I come home from Santa Clara on Thursday night. And then Friday, some of these guys, Grant and Dave and a lot of the people go down and they hang out at the facility. And that's fine too, because you can, maybe talk to a couple players on a conference call. You might get a little bit more access. I kind of like watching the draft and then whenever something happens, be 2 feet away from going live. So I think I'll probably go live on Friday night, but we'll do a ton. And what we did last year, we're going to do again. So like every single time the 49ers draft somebody, you're going to see me pop on and do a 10-minute video telling you every possible thing that I know that I think is important about that player. And I had some of my friends, some of my scouting friends around the league were like, Krug, I loved your YouTube breakdowns of the players. So that even motivated me that much more. So I'm really excited to do that. And if I can help bring the thing to life for some of you guys because of my dysfunction of watching endless hours of college football, if I can do that for you, I will do that for you. Jim Molay in the house. What's up, Jimmy? He says, breaking. popular Bay Area sports podcast to shut down over Niner kicker sucking. Yes. Yes. That's it. I'm pulling the plug on the channel if they draft a kicker in the first round. We got this one, Mitchell and Ness. Larry, please keep it real this draft. Oh, come on now. Everyone hated the Pearsall pick, but you were somehow trying to justify it. Well, okay, here I hear that. I hear what you're saying. I'm not going to be triggered into some anti-pick. I mean, okay, so you're talking to a guy who has sat in these rooms for hours and in these meetings for hours. And I you guys know me. Probably nobody watches more college prospects in the media than me, right? But still, I have great respect for the, I'm running on my YouTube channel. I'm doing radio hits. I'm talking about the Warriors some nights. Some nights I'm talking about the Giants. Tariq Ahmad, R.J. Gillen, these guys are all day, every day personnel. So I try to give them some layer of respect by just saying, not just coming out and just being, they're freaking idiots. You know what I mean? I should have said that when the Niners drafted A.J. Jenkins, because I was like, dude, this guy played in the Big Ten. I never heard of this guy. And then, it's just, so, I mean, there are times where it's like, certain picks should be ripped. But just out of respect for how hard these guys work and how many man hours they put into this thing, and having done that, once you've rolled that film back and forth, once you've invested the man hours, and then now here it's years later, and you're still all in the draft, but you're not investing those hours, you know the difference. And for that reason, I try to show some respect to R.J. Gillen, to Tariq Ahmad, to John Lynch. If I hate it, I will tell you I hate it. I promise you that. But a lot of times I do try to understand, what do they see? What are they thinking? Because I'm not always right. Come on. I think I know, you guys know, I got an ego. I think I know what I'm talking about. I think I know a lot of these players. I think I know a lot of these players better than a lot of people, but I'm not such a crazy maniacal egomaniac that I think I know more about all these guys than guys that are being paid $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year to do this job. Now, do I think I could do this job as well? Yeah, I know I could. I absolutely know I could. But I also know that I'm not, and that my commitment to it is, the number of man hours that I put into it. So I hear what you're saying. I am going to keep it real, but I'm always going to try to give you, these are the facts about this player. Let's say Ricky Pearsall. These are the facts about Ricky Pearsall. He runs 4.41. He did this. He did that. I'm going to try to give you every fact I can possibly come up with. Okay? Then I'm going to give you my opinion on the player. And then I'm going to try to understand why the 49ers like that player. So that's kind of where I'm at. Mitchell and Ness, you're an old-timer you're a long-timer with me, so I know you know where I'm coming from. But I'll say this. If I don't like a player, I will never say that I do. Invader 49er, Larry's streams are never too much. Thank you, Invader. Google is Skynet. How do these teams find these guys? Like Roseman finding Bond and Becton and Mailata. How did the Cowboys find Brandon Aubrey? The 49ers never seem to think outside the box, and it hurts them. Yeah, I mean, you first of all, I think you gotta be open-minded. You gotta be open-minded. Like, I love this North Carolina center as a fullback. I love the Florida defensive tackle, J.J. Pegues, as a potential fullback. J.J. said today, I saw it on Twitter, that a bunch of teams have talked to him about playing fullback because that Lane Kiffin used him as a short yardage back, and he was awesome. I think he was like 7 for 7 on touchdowns and like 10 for 10 on first downs. I mean, the guy's never been stopped. Why? Because he's 325 pounds, and in 2 steps, he's at full speed. He's an incredible athlete. So there's a couple guys that I really like that are defensive and offensive linemen, and I like them as replacements for Juice. Well, okay, but somebody's got to picture that. Somebody's got to be like, let's try that or not. How did the Cowboys find Brandon Aubrey? A tryout camp. Literally a tryout camp. As far as how did Roseman find Becton? Roseman's really smart, and he saw that Becton was a behemoth body first-round bust who doesn't have the footwork to play offensive tackle. But the NFL's changed. It used to be the guards could move their feet, and the tackles were House Ballard and, gigantic, huge guys. Now the tackles have to move their feet, and the guards are huge guys. So he just said, you know what? I got Lane Johnson at right tackle. I'm going to put Mekhi Becton at right guard, and let's see how it goes. And he salvaged the kid's career. He's going to get broken off and depart in free agency for bigger money. Baun, I don't know about Baun. I'd have to do some research. I know Baun was really good at Wisconsin, and then he got himself in amazing shape this year. I don't know if he's had injuries and that's what's held him back or whatnot, but yeah, give Roseman credit, man. Give Howie Roseman credit. The guy has done an amazing job, no doubt, and deserves all the credit in the world. Joseph Ernberg says, thanks, Larry. Now the offseason is going to be even more boring without the Wednesday wake-up show. Come on, Ern. You'll be there for us on Monday and Friday, hopefully. Just got to mix it up a little bit. Just got to mix it up. As I said, I don't stream twice a week with anybody, so there's probably 3 times a week was probably too much. At least in the offseason. We'll see. We'll reevaluate as we go. T-Dub says, Krug, you watch any Jalen Royals, wide receiver, Utah State? He fits the box. Yep, I have. I said, didn't impress me a ton. Why did you stop scouting, Larry? Honestly, because every person that I met in the night, I started scouting in 1994 out of college. Almost every guy that I met in scouting was on their second or third wife. And I saw what they put into it. And, I'm one of 4 kids. I was one of 4 kids in my family. I knew that I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids. And it just didn't seem very conducive to having a totally functional family, giving 110-hour weeks, July through February to my job. So even though I loved it and I had a lot of success doing it and I had a bright future doing it, wasn't the lifestyle. You know what I mean? And once I saw the radio lifestyle, and there's no guarantees on radio either, but you could go home and see your wife. You could, I coach my kids in Little League. I have real relationships with my children, and they grow up fast, man. They grow up fast. But I will say this: one, my kids are all grown up, and I got a 14-year-old. I'd go back down that road because I do think I can help. I definitely think I can help. Stefan Sanders says, trade back and go Nolan, Milam, Bond, and Makuba. Bond is going to be interesting. He played at Bama, transferred to Texas, probably regrets it because he didn't have much of a year, but he runs so well. Bond, I think, is going to run like 4.2s, something like that. Mitchell Ness says, Kenneth Grant and Makuba, and I'm happy. Yeah, I'd be happy with that too. You get a gigantic tackle inside who can rush the passer and is a behemoth. Kenneth Grant is a one of one, and then Makuba, I think, would be the perfect free safety opposite Malik Mustafa. And then you use Jair as your third safety. Yeah, I like that. Trip Aces says, I credit Krug for the video research. Thank you. Google Skynet just says, Grant is a monster. Yes, he is. Red Sox 04. Larry, do you think Darrell Luter will have an impact soon? Thanks, I do. And somebody suggested that, roster politics have hurt him. I don't believe that. He's had some injuries. They've been kind of difficult to overcome. One of them was a bone bruise on the kneecap, caused him a lot of pain for a lot of time. It's do or die, but I really believe in Luter. He's a press man corner with size and speed, and he was good at South Alabama. He's got good film. I think he's going to emerge. I really do. I think he's a bust-out guy this year. Invader 49 says Chris Paul Jr. is a big-time hitter. Yeah, we're not talking about the basketball player. We're talking about the Ole Miss kid who's transferred from Arkansas, and he told people this week at the Combine that they immediately compared him to Dre Greenlaw. So you know what? That might be a guy to go after. Probably going to be in late round 2. Chris says, Pegues, please. Yeah, go watch J.J. Pegues. He's really good, really good. Invader 49er just gave Hilarious Wise. Thank you. Thank you. Google is Skynet. Lowry, you lazy Lowry. Okay, we got this one from Scott Moray. Other than Willie Lampkin to fullback, have you seen anyone else who might be a candidate to change positions in the NFL outside of moving across the line, going offensive tackle to guard doesn't count? Yeah, I have. I just named J.J. Pegues. J.J. Pegues, I think, can be a fullback as well. But I really love Willie Lampkin. I mean, there's going to be guys that as you get closer in this thing that you really like, that you might think, have ability at other positions. I'd have to really think about it. Trying to think of one that I could share with you that I think's got. Well, I'll give you one. The Syracuse tight end, Rondé Gadsden, the second. He moves so well. And he's 6'4", 247, but he's a little pumped up. You may want to lean him out to 6'4", 225 and have him play him as a jumbo wide receiver. I'm not sure if Rondé Gadsden's an inline blocker. He might be more of a receiver. So I really kind of like him as a potential receiver. There's always going to be guys. I mean, there's usually it's like big defensive, outside linebackers who could play defensive end, something like that. A lot of them are not, you'd have to see. I'd have to go through it. I'll say this, it's a great year for undersized linebackers. I'll give you another one that I really love. Kari Coleman for Ole Miss. They played him as a defensive end. He's 6'1", he's 213 pounds. I don't know that he's a defensive end, but I would be very interested in him as a linebacker because he's really, really athletic. And, yeah, he can go get the quarterback, but he's not a defensive end in a niner, wide 9-4-3 thing. He's got to be a stack backer or a special teamer, but I really like him, Kari Coleman. And he's a day 3 guy for sure. All right, let's see. A few more of these. I think, Frederick, why'd you ever stop scouting? I think I gave you that answer. Let me see if I got make sure we get all these supers in here. Trade BA and BP, Deebo, start Tanner, get T-Mac, Luther, Joseph Ernberg, a total turnover. Goodbye, Aiyuk. Goodbye, Purdy. Goodbye, Deebo. You're going with Tanner Mordecai to Tetaroa McMillan and Luther Burden. Wow. Joseph Ernberg, Rattler and Tanner could be a better Brock. I'm not a big Rattler guy. Boxing fan times 4. Do you think Gray Zabel can compete NFL level? No doubt. No doubt. Though we didn't have a great Senior Bowl. He looked good in that week. I like him as a center. I think he played tackle at North Dakota State. I think his versatility is really going to help him. I like him a lot. I thought he was really good in the one-on-ones, really good. But then in the game, he kind of got worked a little bit. So I would say, to me, he looks like a late 3rd, early 4th round pick, and probably a center. Probably a center in the NFL. Keeping the faith. So did anyone ask Lynch about the Aiyuk rumor? I don't think so. I don't think, other than what we told you already about Aiyuk, I don't think we got any new ground plowed there. Jim Molay, Jimmy Jaw in the house says, what's your scouting report say about Mick Lombardi as the new quarterback coach? Does this help or hurt Brock, or does it move the needle at all? Well, I mean, Mick's been coaching for a while, but he hasn't played in the NFL like Griese. I don't know what to say. I don't know enough about Mick as a coach to say how he's going to do. I don't know that Brock needs necessarily the same coaching he may have needed coming out of Iowa State at this point. So it is interesting. It wasn't like, hey, they preferred Mick to Griese. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Griese left and they wanted to go in-house. I'll tell you the guy who I would hire, and I don't know if he would do it because he's made a lot of money, but I'd hire Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith is going to be a great quarterback coach the day he wants to do it. Now, it's a big commitment. He's got young kids, a wife, a whole life. He's got his, the leg situation that I'm sure he's got to deal with on a regular basis. But man, if it was me, I'd go stop off at Alex Smith's house in the Bay and be like, Alex, what is it going to take for you to be the quarterback coach? Because I think he'd be a great one. Why? Because he literally evolved from you can't do this to wow, you're amazing. Leon Sandcastle says, any thoughts on Montana State's quarterback Tommy Mellott? We got that. Any good kickers that could fall at 11? No. Larry, why'd you stop scouting? Boxing fan, thoughts on Jaden Higgins and Jalen Royals? Higgins is interesting. Royals has got speed and some size. I like Higgins a little bit more. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Join me. I'm going to jump over on KMBR right now for the Gregs. They're looking for me right now, I'm sure. So I'm going to hop over there right now. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our friends at Aura. Have a great day. Go Niners. And we'll see you later today.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared.